This is Auspol Explained, an educational resource teaching you all about everything to do with Australian politics, and this is episode 2 of my mini-series about the foundations of government. My name is David, I am your handsomely bearded host, and I am here to teach you about elections. What are they? When do they happen? Why do we have them? Can they be stopped? The answer is no. Constitutionally speaking, you cannot stop an election from happening. I love elections. I genuinely love elections so much. So, what are they? Look, okay, so simply, an election is where a bunch of people cast their vote to decide on who they think should be in government. In Australia, that's basically every adult, sort of. In Australia, there are 3 types of elections for the 3 different levels of government. There are the federal elections, there's the state elections, and then there are the local elections. Once you enroll to vote, you can vote in all of these. Also, please enroll to vote. It is compulsory, but it is not automatic. It is compulsory to vote in Australia in both federal and state elections, and depending on what state you live in, you may or may not have to vote in local elections. Fun fact, the voting age in Australia is 18, but you can enroll as young as age 16, which is super handy in case an election just surprises you the week you turn 18. You're like, it's okay, I'm prepared, because David on the internet told me to be. Because after listening to this episode, I, as a 16/17-year-old, did actually go and enroll to vote, and it was great. Do it, do it. To be eligible to enroll to vote, you must be an Australian citizen or a British subject permanently living in Australia who enrolled to vote before the 26th of January 1984. You're probably the first one on the list. Don't worry about it. The official source of information on federal elections is the Australian Electoral Commission website, or aec.gov.au. The AEC runs federal elections and also is your deep personal friend. It is a friend to everyone, and one day it will respond to one of my birthday invitations. There are also smaller electoral commissions that work for state and territory elections, and they also deal with the local elections within that state. So just search your state/territory name and electoral commission and you'll be able to access relevant information to you. I'll also link them all in the description, but you know, for future reference. Elections may or may not have a set date. That's really important information to know. Depending on where you live, your state and local elections may have a set time, or they may just have to happen within a certain time limit and could be called within a month's time. For example, state elections in Western Australia are fixed 4-year terms, whereas state elections in Tasmania happen sometime within that 4-year time limit. If someone asks you, when is the next federal election? The answer is within 3 years of the previous one. Fun fact, the House of Representatives and the Senate, which I discussed in part 1 by the way, don't actually have to have an election at the same time, though generally speaking they do. Again, generally, so keep an eye out. Members of the House of Representatives have a maximum of a 3-year term, and senators have a maximum of 6 years. The Senate has what's called a half election, which is where, you guessed it, half the members are up for re-election after 3 years or less, and then the other half is up for re-election the next election, which again, maybe 3 years. Elections can happen a year apart, or 2, or, you know, some time, so long as they're within that 3-year period. For federal elections, the Prime Minister asks the Governor-General to call an election on a chosen date, and that request is usually granted. There are rare instances where this is denied, but like, it's not your problem, it's the Prime Minister's problem, so like, don't worry about it. Unless you are the Prime Minister and you're watching this, or you're listening to this and you're the future Prime Minister and you're like, David warned me about this. The Governor-General grants the election for the House of Representatives and also the Senate for the territories. The states have their own head called a governor. Governors are basically like a mini governor general, which is kind of cute. The governors call the elections for states, as well as being in charge for whether or not a state goes to a Senate election. This means, hypothetically speaking, each state can have a separate election at different times for the Senate, and it doesn't have to coincide with the House of Representatives, and they can all be on different weeks, but like usually they are pretty chill and go, okay, it's fine, we can all have it at the same time. That would make way more sense than what David just said. What a terrible idea that would be. Let's just all have it at the same time. So that's just a technical fun fact. You will almost certainly go to a Senate election the same time as the rest of the country. If a seat in the House of Representatives becomes vacant due to like death, resignation, an act of treason, there will be a thing called a by-election, which is an election just for that specific electorate. So it's possible that you may have to vote in an election while the rest of the country doesn't. When a member of the Senate resigns or dies or discovers they're ineligible due to dual citizenship, then the party chooses a replacement for the remainder of the term. This is all outlined in the Constitution and is related to how we vote in the differences between the Senate and the House of Representatives. Which brings me to, but how does voting work? Okay, so step 1, be enrolled to vote. You know that. You know this. Step 2, make sure your details are up to date. Whenever you move, you must update your address with the AEC after a month of living at your new home to make sure that you're registered to vote in your right electorate. Step 3 is my favorite and perhaps the most fun. Paperwork. Filling in your ballot. You can vote early via an early voting center or request a postal ballot, though usually most people go to a polling booth on election day. On election day, you'll be able to find said polling booth by visiting like a school, community center, church, public building, etc. They're everywhere. You'll be able to find a list on the AEC. Then a staff member will give you a piece of paper called a ballot. It'll have written instructions, and also the staff will be able to answer any questions you have about filling it out. So that makes like the rest of this episode like kind of redundant, because you'll rock up and you'll get all the information you need, but like, hey, you've got this far, why not finish it? Please? Anyway, you're already invested, it's fine. You'll be prepared. Australia uses a system called preferential voting. I have a whole episode about this that goes into a bit more detail, but basically, a quick rundown is that you fill out multiple preferences. So if no one candidate gets a clear majority, then everyone's second choices gets counted, and then third and fourth and so on until there is a clear winner. This means even if you don't think your preferred party will win, then you can still vote for them first and you haven't wasted your vote. So vote for who you want to get elected, and hey, maybe, just maybe, they will get elected. You never know. Federally, for the House of Representatives ballot, which is green and has a long list of boxes going vertically down the paper, you'll fill in every single box from 1 to whatever amount of boxes there are. So, 10 or 5 or other numbers. I know other numbers. I don't have to prove to you that I know other numbers. Just trust me. For the Senate ballot, it'll be white and long horizontally with a line separating it into 2 parts. You have 2 options, above the line or below the line. Above the line, you fill in at least 6 boxes with your preferences based off which parties you prefer the most. You can fill in all the boxes or just 6, but it must be at least 6, okay? Below the line is a vertical list of individual candidates for those parties. Because multiple people per state are being elected to the Senate, a party can put forward multiple candidates. You can rank them individually in the order you prefer from 1 to 12 or more. You can fill in all the boxes or just 12, but you must number at least 12. Again, pick only one of these options, either above or below. States and territories have a legislative assembly or House of Assembly, and most states have a legislative council. Queensland doesn't. They also use preferential voting. There can be a lot of small ways that the state elections vary, so instead of giving you like a rundown of every single one, I recommend finding the electoral commissions for your state or territory, as previously mentioned. Sorry I can't give specific instructions, otherwise this video would just be too long and boring. Again, there will be someone there at the polling booth to explain it to you if you forget any details, and written instructions on how to fill out your ballots are on the ballots. I also do individual episodes about how to vote in specific state elections, so subscribe for that information. There may be special circumstances, like you're not currently in the electorate that you're registered in, or you need to vote early, or you're currently in prison, or in Antarctica. All these affect how you vote, but for the sake of simplicity and to ensure all information is up to date, I can't go into a lot of detail about these things in such a short video. However, the AEC website has a handy FAQ and a guide to all these different kinds of questions. So the link is in the description. The AEC website also comes in multiple languages to help you. It, like me, is your friend, and it is here to help you. Though it knows way more than I do, which makes me a little bit jealous, and I wish I could be like the AEC. You can even email the AEC and ask them questions. I do it occasionally, and they answer incredibly quickly and are really informative. And yet, never respond to my emails about my birthday. And there you have it. In this video, you learned about how the voting system in Australia works and how to fill in your ballot for federal elections. Tune in for part 3, where I will be discussing the very foundation of our governmental system, the Constitution. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Subscribe, comment down below what you would like to learn about next. Do like the liking, the sharing, the telling all your friends and family about me, and also, you know, maybe support me on Patreon if you are fortunate enough to have a spare $1 or $2 a month. You know the whole spiel. Anyway, I'll see you for part 3.